Hello, my name's Maddie, and today I'll be talking a little bit about color theory, mixing watercolors, and a good primary 3-colored palette for watercolors when you're just getting started. Believe it or not, red will not be one of those colors. To find out why, keep watching this video. So you might be thinking, 3 colors, that's not a lot to choose from. Why don't I just buy the 12-color, 16-color palette with everything I need from the store, and I'll have every color I need, I won't have to do much mixing. Well, in my opinion, the best way to get started with watercolors, and the way I got started, is with a limited palette of 3 colors and then moving up to 6 colors and further. So I'll tell you my recommendations for those basic palettes and what colors you can add on as you need them. Reasons I recommend starting off with this limited palette are the choice paralysis that you get when you look at the wide selection of colors and you have no idea which yellow or red or blue to choose to mix your color you want. Secondly, it's good to learn how to mix colors by forcing yourself to only use 3 primaries. So later on you'll have more understanding of how colors work together. It keeps you from making muddy or brown desaturated colors when you want a really bright, vibrant painting. Fourth, you have a more unified looking painting because you used less colors, and a limited palette will make your whole painting cohesive and unified. So I will tell you a little bit about color theory, color wheels, primary colors, secondary colors, which primary colors to use, and how to mix your desired color. So let's start off with some vocabulary. This is the color wheel. It shows the colors that can be mixed through the whole spectrum of the rainbow. Primary colors are colors that can't be mixed by any other colors. Mixing them together can get you all the other colors in the rainbow. So our first primary color is yellow. And then we have blue. And we have red. So these colors are the ones that I'm mixing together to get the rest of these squares. So if you mix the primary colors together in equal amounts, then you get the secondary color. So we have green, we have purple, and orange. And then any color in between those, such as red-orange or yellow-orange, is a intermediate color. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 intermediate colors in this color wheel, but they can be a complete gradient going, so there can be infinite divisions in between just based on the amount of which primary color you used. Another term is analogous color, so that's the color shade next to your color on the color wheel, either left or right. And then we have complementary colors. So this is the color straight across from your color in the color wheel. So for red, it's green, orange and blue, yellow and purple, and then for these shades as well. And mixing together 2 complementary colors is a way to darken it, make it less saturated, and turn it more towards brown. And if you mix all 3 primary colors, then you should, in theory, get black. So that might seem simple enough, but then comes the question, which primary colors do I use? Because watercolors often come in multiple yellows, multiple blues, and reds, and not all of them are going to get you the same range and brightness of colors. So I'll do an experiment with 2 different primaries. So I'll be using red, blue, and yellow, like you have been probably taught that the primary colors are called. And then I will do another color wheel with cyan, magenta, and yellow. So you would be familiar with CYMK from printing. Printers use this as their inks, and we are going to also be able to use it in watercolor and see which one turns out the best. So a little secret about this color wheel is there's not one color from watercolor that I'm using for either of these primaries. I actually mixed 2 colors for each of them. The reason for that is because each shade of watercolor in the primary is not quite pure. So here I have cadmium yellow and lemon yellow, and these are Winsor & Newton student watercolors. So these are the recommended primary yellows to use, but the cadmium yellow is warmer and lemon yellow is cooler, so This is talking about the temperature of colors. So temperature of warmer and cooler colors is pretty much split down the color wheel that anything towards this side is cooler, this side will be warmer. So a yellow going more towards blue and green will be cooler, a yellow going this way towards red, warmer. Same for any color. If it's going towards this side of the circle, it is warmer, this way, cooler. So we have a cool and a warm blue, a cool and a warm red, cool and a warm yellow. For blue, if it's going this way, it's cooler, and this way is warmer. So we have 2 of each of the primaries that we're going to compare, and I'm going to put them into 2 color wheels. This one will have red, blue, yellow, and then this one, the cooler colors, will be cyan, magenta, and yellow. So for yellows, we have cadmium, lemon, warm, cool. We have, for our red that is warm, will be cadmium red. Cool red will be permanent rose, which is really pink, and that's why I call it magenta. This is cobalt blue for the cool, and ultramarine for the warm blue. And we will compare them, and you're going to see that the color wheels of each of them are pretty different. And to make these color wheels, I printed out a little printable and used transfer paper to transfer it onto my paper. If you're interested in a printable guide that you can download for this whole video, I'm going to be putting the link to that below, and it will include color wheels that you can print out and transfer onto watercolor paper. I'm also going to try to mix black from both of these warm and cool primary palette. So we're just mixing all 3 primary colors together, and we will get a grayish brown, but hopefully if we mix more, it will turn darker and more towards black. So that's sort of a sepia. Try adding more. We can kind of get a dark blue-gray, but I don't think we're going to get all the way to black. So let's try with the cool palette now. So that's purple. So to make that darker, we need to add yellow. So now you can clearly see that using different sets of primaries of different temperatures will give you very different results in your color wheel. So with our warm primaries, you can see the oranges and the reds are very vibrant and bright and nice to look at, but this side of the color wheel is pretty horrible and muddy, which is fine if you want that, but it's always best to have vibrant colors to start out with that you can make less vibrant by mixing their complementary colors. So you want to have control over how muddy your colors get. And with our cool color wheel, you can see that these purples and these greens are amazingly bright and beautiful. And the oranges are just okay, but they're not too bad. I think that these oranges are better than these greens and purples. So the trade-off is that you'll have great greens and great purples, but a little bit of a harder time making oranges. So what is the reason that this color wheel looks like this and this one looks like this and has almost brown for purple? And the reason is again to do with temperature. So for this color wheel, I actually used both yellows mixed together, but I used the cadmium yellow, warm yellow going this way, and the cadmium red going this way to mix these colors. I used the permanent rose, cool red here, and the cobalt blue, well, the ultramarine going this way, cobalt blue going this way, and lemon yellow going this way. So the temperature of the watercolor tells you what other color it has in it, since they're not exactly pure primary colors, such as lemon yellow has a bit of blue in it. So if you're going to mix lemon yellow with your permanent rose, you're mixing not only yellow and red, but you're mixing whatever else they have in them. So this has blue. So you're mixing mostly yellow and red, but also a lot of blue. And as we noticed before, blue is the complementary color of orange, so it's going to make it less vibrant. And that's why this purple looks so bad, because this red, cadmium red, is really warm, has a lot of yellow in it. This blue is good. It has blue and a bit of red. So we're mixing red, blue, a bit more red, and some yellow. So what we're getting is the complementary color of purple, making it a bit brown. So what we want is something like this, where we have yellow and blue in the lemon yellow, we have blue and yellow in the cobalt, since it's going towards green. And so we're mixing yellow, blue, and yellow again, so green. So you want to be mindful of what other shades are in your colors or what shade they're going towards. And if you want to mix a color like this and that's what you need, then perfect. Use either a warm red and a warm blue, or use a purple like this, mix some yellow into it to make a more muted, toned down purple. So you'll also notice that this was very hard. This combination of primary colors is very hard to get to a nice good black shade, whereas this color combination made a pretty good black. If I had mixed a little bit more of each pigment into it, could be even darker. So I'm going to go a little bit more into how the temperature of your primary affects your secondary color that you're mixing. So here we have little charts for the cool and warm of each primary that we're mixing together to make a secondary color, so we can compare all of the results. So we'll start with green, because I use green the most in my paintings. So we'll do cool and cool first, and I'll just do it right on the page. Next we're going to try warm and cool. So this yellow has some red in it, so we can expect a little bit more of a muted olivey green. And yeah, that green is a little bit less saturated than that one. So now we'll do warm blue, which has some red, and cool yellow. So this one we can expect to be less saturated again because of that red that this blue has in it. But it's not bad because the lemon yellow's really bright and the ultramarine doesn't have too much red. Finally, we will do warm yellow and warm blue, and I'm predicting this one will be the least bright and saturated because of two warm colors. And there it is. So I think there's not too much difference between ultramarine and cobalt, or at least the ones that I have. But if you really want to see a difference, another cool blue is phthalo blue, which is very green. So I will try that one. And that gives a really, really bright color. So that's not always what you want, but if you do want a bright color, or if you want the ability to do a bright color, then phthalo blue is something you might want to try. So this is a cool red, which means it has blue, and this is a cool blue, which means it has green and yellow. So that will affect how our purple looks. Because purple with yellow added to it gets closer to brown. But it doesn't look too bad because cobalt isn't too strong of a cool color. But if we do phthalo blue, that is pretty dark purple. Now we'll do warm red and cool blue. So this one should be the least saturated of them all. And yeah, it doesn't even look like purple at all. Cool red, warm blue, and this is a nice purple because we have very little yellow in this mix. You can see how gross that one turned, complete brown. Cadmium red has a lot of yellow. There are warmer reds that have less yellow in them, so those would look better, but this one has a lot of yellow. Warm blue. Pretty much mud. So cool yellow, which has blue in it, and cool red, which also has blue in it, and that is going to really tone down the orange that it makes. So it stays really pink and almost doesn't get very orange at all. First one. So cool yellow and warm red. It's a very nice orange. Warm yellow, cool red. Also nice. And of course warm and warm will be our best bet. So I showed you how to mix browns or neutral grays over here by mixing all three primary colors. And you can vary the amount of each one, so you can have a more blue gray or a more red and yellow, or more purple gray, more green gray, depending on the ratios of each primary color in your brown. And now I'm going to show you how you can use complementary colors to tone down a really bright color that you don't want to be so bright. Let's say you have a really bright green and you want it to be less bright, you want it to be more of an olive green, because that's what you need for your painting. But you only have really bright greens in your palette. So that's not a problem. I mixed lemon yellow and cobalt blue to make this bright light green. And now if you want it to be less bright, you can mix with the red shade. So I'll use Permanent Rose, and just a little is enough. So here's what it looks like with a little bit of that Permanent Rose. So it's a little closer to gray and less saturated. I hope you can see that the temperature of your primaries really matters in the colors that you're going to be able to mix from them. So choosing your primaries is a very important part of making your palette, and you can have a palette with just your primaries as long as they're the right ones, and you can mix all the colors that you'll need from them. So if you already have watercolor, I would really encourage you to make a color wheel of your primaries. And primaries can be different. They don't have to be the ones I recommend. They'll just mix different colors. The recommendation I'm going to give for the first 3 colors you should get is just so that you can make the widest range of bright colors possible, with the option of making them less bright by mixing complementary colors. So let's move on to the final part of this video, how to make your watercolor palette. So you can buy a palette like this, like I did from Winsor & Newton. It has spots for mixing and it gives you lots of colors. I've taken some out and put some in, but you get a pretty basic set of colors. But once you're out of a pan, you have to get a new one. The other option is you can buy tubes of watercolor paint and empty pans and somewhere to put them, and then you can squeeze your own paint into your own pans, and then once you run out you can just refill it. And yeah, I like to do that because it feels like a fun way to customize your paints. I'm still waiting to buy more watercolor paints so I can really fill this palette up. So looking at these color wheels that we made before from each set of primaries, I'm recommending to start off with 3 cool primaries: cool red, cool blue, cool yellow. So for Winsor & Newton, that's lemon yellow, cobalt blue or phthalo blue, and Permanent Rose. So these would be your first 3 colors, and you can mix a wide range of bright colors and muted colors, and you can get your black and browns. And if you want to be able to mix brighter oranges and have a warmer palette, you can add in that warm cadmium red to your palette. And then if you want the full range and want to experiment with these warmer colors, you can add warm blue and the warm cadmium yellow. And then further down the line, if whatever you use a lot and you don't want to be mixing it, you can get pans in that color. So I use greens a lot, so I have a sap green, hooker's green, viridian green, and then I also have earth tones and browns, burnt sienna, raw umber, and burnt umber, and those are really great for mixing browns because those take a while to mix up. And also I paint a lot of animals, so I use those 3 a lot, as well as yellow ochre. So yeah, I also have pretty much this section of my palette. I don't even use it because they're not colors I use often, and I can mix them if I need them from my primaries. Another color that's really useful is Payne's Gray, because you can add it to any color to make it a lot darker and grayer, and it's a quick way to get dark colors, so I use that a lot as well. So I will give a breakdown of each step you can take in building your watercolor palette, and what the different names might be in different brands and how to find them. And all of the info that I gave in this video summed up into one PDF. And you can find that in the description below. There will be a link to get it sent to your email. So that has been a quick intro into color theory and building your watercolor palette. I hope that that's been helpful. And if you have any other tips or tricks, hints, or things that you disagree with, let me know. And I will be having more watercolor basics videos in the future, so subscribe if you want to see those coming up. And thank you for watching.